After the Qingming holiday, a faint red thread mysteriously appeared on my roommate's wrist. The moment I saw it, I knew immediately. "You've been betrothed to a ghost," I told her, but she scoffed, thinking I was joking. The next night, her spectral groom came calling. I was the last one to return to the dorm after the Qingming break. As soon as I opened the door, a damp, musty smell hit me. "The room smells awful. Why don't you open the windows?" Chloe, sitting near the door, sniffed hard. "I don't smell anything. Maybe the young miss isn't used to our poor, dingy room." Yura sat with her legs crossed, glancing at me before resuming her manicure. I ignored her odd attitude, quickly dragging my luggage to my bed. Perhaps sensing the awkward atmosphere, Mia, who always tried to mediate, spoke up. "It's probably the damp smell from the south. I'll open the windows to get some fresh air." "Oh, Mia, are you that bored? Why are you so quick to bootlick the young miss?" Yura's sarcastic remark hung in the air. Mia smiled awkwardly but patiently tried to reason with her. "We all live together in the dorm. You shouldn't be like that. Yura, no, don't bother. I can't climb that high." Yura cut Mia off, her eyes briefly flicking to me. "I don't want to be anyone's lapdog either." Yura's antagonism towards me wasn't new. Ever since I moved into the dorm at the start of the semester, she'd constantly hurl insults. I paid her no mind, which only seemed to egg her on. Insulting me wasn't enough. She even dragged innocent people into it, which I truly couldn't stand anymore. So, I feigned a startled expression, dramatically placing my hand over my mouth. "Oh, how embarrassing. Did I provoke you? Or was it this new Hermes bag? Or my 2 limited edition Chanel dresses?" Immediately, Yura's face flushed crimson. She glared, gritting her teeth. "Don't think just because you have a few dirty coins, you're so great." Chloe, usually quiet, suddenly burst out laughing. Yura's eyes, sharp as knives, darted towards her. Chloe quickly grabbed a book, pretending to study. I watched Yura gasp for air, my gaze sweeping over the red thread on her wrist. My brows furrowed. A powerful intuition compelled me to step in front of Yura, grasping her right hand to examine it. A faint red thread encircled her wrist. This was the red string of fate, one that only appeared when a ghost betrothal had been sealed. "What are you doing?" Yura reacted sharply, yanking her hand away, her face burning with anger. "Yura, where did you go during the Qingming holiday?" My serious tone startled Yura. She quickly adopted a disagreeable expression. "What does that have to do with you?" "That red thread on your wrist could claim your life," I warned her kindly. Yura glanced at her wrist, then sized me up with a disdainful look. "It's just a red mark. Do you need to pretend to be a psychic and curse me?" Seeing that further words were useless, I didn't bother to explain. I simply told her, "Tonight, make sure you cover yourself well when you sleep. Don't catch a cold." My sudden concern for Yura was like seeing a ghost in broad daylight to her. She frowned, scrutinizing me from head to toe. "I can't handle such concern from someone like you. Should I just die already?" I couldn't be bothered with her, so I turned back to my spot to unpack my luggage. Seeing my indifference, Yura mumbled, "Crazy person." Some people won't understand bitterness until they taste it. Tonight, Yura would learn what she was truly up against. The fatigue of returning quickly overcame everyone, and the lights went out at 11 p.m. I had been busy throughout the Qingming holiday and hurried back, so I fell asleep shortly after lying down. In the middle of the night, I woke up, shivering from the cold. A putrid stench invaded my nostrils, so potent it made me nauseous. The room windows were tightly shut, and the air conditioning was off, yet the temperature in the room suddenly dropped, as if a cold wind was blowing through. I knew Yura's spectral groom had arrived. Through a small gap in the curtains, I saw a tall figure standing beneath Yura's bed. He slowly moved towards the mobile staircase, ascending step by step to Yura's bedside. He directly entered the bed curtains. A moment later, Yura's whimpers emanated from within. I frowned, pulling a yellow talisman from under my pillow. Holding it between 2 fingers, I silently chanted, "Essence of Yang, rising sun of the east, grant me spiritual power, sweep away all misfortune, as quick as the law commands." The talisman transformed into a beam of light and flew across the room. A strange, mournful shriek burst from behind the bed curtains. The dark shadow shot up to the ceiling and vanished. The room's temperature returned to normal, and the air gradually became fresh again. I closed my eyes, satisfied, and went back to sleep. The next morning, apart from me, the other 3 roommates looked terrible. I secretly glanced at Yura's wrist. The red thread had deepened in color. At lunch, Mia suddenly spoke up. Did anyone wake up from the cold last night? No one answered immediately. I swallowed a piece of braised pork, looked at her, and slowly said, I did. It's already April, though. Mia's voice grew quieter. She cautiously looked towards Yura. And I saw someone get onto Yura's bed. Are you sick? Yura angrily slammed the table, pointing at Mia. If you dare make things up, I'll rip your mouth off. I'm not making things up, I really saw it. Mia's eyes welled up instantly, her voice choking. I stared at Yura, speaking seriously. I also saw that you were sleep paralyzed by a ghost last night, didn't you? Chloe chimed in. I heard some strange noises too. Shut up! Yura slammed the table again, glaring fiercely at me. You must be colluding with them, pretending to be ghosts to scare me. My eyes darted to her wrist. I said coldly, haven't you noticed the red string on your wrist is darker? It only appears when there's a ghost betrothal. Once it turns crimson, you'll be taken away. Yura lifted her right hand, carefully examining it. She slowly raised her head to look at me, then suddenly laughed. And Sully, do you think you can scare me like that? HMPH, I asked back mockingly. Why would I waste my time on you? You rich people don't need a reason to play with others, do you? Yura's sarcastic laughter was laced with deep resentment towards me. Good advice is lost on a fool who wants to die. I said my piece. She could sort it out herself. Seeing her prejudice against me was so deep, I didn't want to waste any more breath. The atmosphere in the room instantly grew awkward. No one spoke further. Finally, Yura stormed out and didn't return until the dorm doors closed. The next day, the counselor brought Yura back to the dorm. She looked utterly distraught, her face pale, as if she'd been through a terrifying ordeal. After the counselor left, Yura's eyes, bright with desperation, stared at me, her voice trembling. And Sully, I saw him? With that, she hugged herself, trembling like a terrified little wild animal. I briefly glanced at her wrist, seeing the red string had turned a vibrant, glaring crimson. What happened? Tell me everything. On Friday night, Yura went to a hotel with her boyfriend, Liam. While they were intimate, Liam suddenly clutched his own throat with both hands, convulsing and shaking on the bed. Yura was stunned with fear. Seeing Liam in such agony, she snapped back to reality and tried to pry his hands away, but couldn't. She had to call the front desk. As she was making the call, a spectral figure materialized in the air, straddling Liam and tightly grasping his neck with both hands. The police said Liam had a seizure, but I know he doesn't have that condition. Yura's voice was agitated, tears streaming down her face. Her eyes were unfocused as she mumbled. It was him. That shadow controlled Liam. Calm down. I stepped forward and pressed her shoulders, looking into her eyes. Where did you go during the Qingming holiday? I went to sweep graves. Is that why I got something dirty clinging to me? No, that can't be. I shook my head. A ghost betrothal requires the person's birth date. Did you pick up a red envelope somewhere? No, Yura shook her head, then her face turned ashen as if remembering something. Birth date. Only close family would know that. Don't leave the room tonight, I advised Yura. Yura fearfully shook her head, crying, what if he comes and harms everyone else? I raised an eyebrow, slightly surprised. Seeing her body still trembling, I comforted her. What's there to be afraid of? We'll just find someone to marry in your place. Yura looked at me in astonishment, then quickly shook her head. No, don't misunderstand. I cut her off, smiling. I didn't say I'm marrying him. I asked Yura for her birth date and a lock of her hair, then pasted a talisman on the window. Don't leave the room tonight, I instructed the others before heading out. Yura stepped forward, her face flushed, not daring to look at me. Thank you. I treated you so badly before and you're still helping me. No need for that, I interrupted, my expression serious. Human lives are important, everything else is minor. With that, I turned and left the school, taking a taxi to West City. In a villa district in West City, the owner was an old acquaintance of mine. And Sully, the flamboyant man, leaned back on the sofa, his eyebrows furrowed, his foxy eyes full of contemplation. Don't tell me you've finally decided to marry me. I ignored his outlandish remark. I walked straight to the sofa and sat down next to him. Baekhyun, I need a favor. Oh my, Baekhyun's eyes lit up and he straightened. Help with what? Marry someone for you. No, marry a ghost. Baekhyun's face instantly darkened. After explaining the truth of the situation to Baekhyun, I tossed him a red envelope containing Yura's birth date and hair. Baekhyun picked it up with a look of disgust, his eyes mournfully fixed on me. So, you only came to me because you want me to marry a ghost for you? Yeah, I calmly nodded. Baekhyun leaned back on the sofa, smiling alluringly. You could handle this yourself, but you insist on coming to me. Could it be you have a secret crush on me? I glared at him, stating casually, I don't want anything to do with a male ghost. You're a man, so it's fine. My point is, you could just kill him yourself, couldn't you? Forcing a living person into a ghost marriage someone like that needs to be punished. The evil spirit must be dealt with, and the living person pulling the strings behind the scenes also needs to suffer. I can help you. Baekhyun paused, his eyes sweeping over me. But I'll help on one condition. I cut him off, casually crossing my legs. I'll help. Baekhyun pouted, his eyes turning mournful again. You always take advantage of my true feelings. Wah. I said nothing, just smiled. I had truly never believed in Baekhyun's true feelings. Foxes are best at deception. The main lights in the shop were dim, and the eerie atmosphere made my eyes a little uncomfortable. Baekhyun wrote Yura's birth date on a paper figure and put her hair into its pocket. He lifted his eyelids, meeting my scrutinizing gaze, and chuckled. His eyes were truly captivating. If you want to pursue excitement, you have to go all the way. At this moment, although Baekhyun had transformed into Yura's appearance, his laughing expression was still very alluring, truly his unique style. To this, I could only comment, you really are charming. Nearing midnight, I hid in the bathroom, leaving only a small crack to observe outside, just enough to see Baekhyun lying on the bed. He even winked at me. At 12 a.m., the room temperature dropped rapidly. The entire room became as cold as a freezer. He's here. He even brought a portable air conditioner with him. The floor-length curtains at the window fluttered despite no wind, and the familiar stench assailed my nose. A human shape appeared in the white curtain, slowly approaching Baekhyun's bed. The curtain was gradually drawn back, finally revealing an incomplete, patchwork face. The ghost appeared to be just over 20 years old, wearing a blue burial shroud, his head tilted to the right. His pale face was marred by many stitches, and his sunken eyes had only whites. The left side of his head was missing a chunk, and an ear was gone. His death was so horrifying, he must have died suddenly while alive. The fact that he could manifest so clearly indicated a strong resentment, and of course, the offerings and prayers from the person behind him. Baekhyun calmly sat up and playfully scolded the ghost. Why did it take you so long to get here? Not only I, but even the ghost was visibly startled. Baekhyun stood up, walked to the stinky ghost, and blew air into his face. The stinky ghost seemed to be frozen by a spell, unable to move. Baekhyun took out the paper figure and tucked it into the ghost's pocket, then whispered into his ear, "Let's go, take me home." The stinky ghost's stiff mouth curled into a grin, revealing a mess of incomplete teeth. In his dark mouth was a vivid green jade. The ghost let out a bizarre laugh, then turned and glided towards the window, his figure passing through the curtain and disappearing. Baekhyun retched, immediately returning to his original form. That repulsive face, I almost couldn't help but reveal myself. Baekhyun was a fox spirit, his sense of smell far sharper than a human's. The burial shroud is made of high-grade material, and the jade in his mouth is also of good quality. It seems he came from a wealthy family. Baekhyun analyzed from the bedside. I glanced at him, then turned towards the door. Go to sleep first. I have classes tomorrow. I'll contact you. Baekhyun's deep voice came from behind. Are you just going to abandon me like that? You truly are irresponsible. After leaving, I took a taxi to a hotel near the school and booked a room for the night. Around 5 a.m., the phone's ringtone woke me. I squinted at my phone. It was a call from Mia. Her anxious voice came through. Sully, where are you just now, that thing? Her voice was trembling, mixed with sobs. I realized something was wrong and sat up in bed. The stinky ghost had come to the dorm looking for Yura. Yura was almost choked to death. The talisman I had left in the dorm earlier had been peeled off by some student and then repasted, so it was slightly damaged, which allowed the ghost to enter the room. I hadn't expected Baekhyun's illusion to be broken so quickly. When I rushed back to the dorm, Yura was sitting on a chair, her body curled up, the marks on her neck clearly visible. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she shot up. "Sully, I know his name." The stinky ghost's name was Wang Yang. He had lived in the same village as Yura when they were children. Later, his family became wealthy and bought a house in the city. When Yura was in high school, they were even in the same class. He, relying on his wealth, forced Yura to date him. It wasn't until graduation, when Wang Yang moved to the next city, that Yura was finally free. I just asked a high school friend and found out he died in a motorcycle accident recently. Yura's lips were pale and trembling. She held out her right hand, her eyes welling up with tears as she looked at me. "Look how dark this color is. Am I going to die soon?" I glanced at the red string on her wrist, then at her neck. The handprints left by the evil spirit wouldn't disappear naturally. "I still need to go home. You won't die." I patted Yura's shoulder, telling her firmly. Once Yura had somewhat stabilized, I pulled out my phone, unblocked Baekhyun, and opened our chat. "Any leads yet?" Entering number 31, Bailing Village. I remembered Yura's family lived in the suburban Bailing Village. "Yura, this weekend, take me to your house for a visit." "Okay." Yura bit her lip, not asking many questions. It seemed I didn't need to explain further. I looked down at my phone. Baekhyun had sent a barrage of messages. "And Sully, what are you doing? You can't block me this time. Pick me up from school tonight. I need to go home." I casually replied, then set my notifications to silent, ignoring him. In the evening, before leaving, I gave each of my roommates a protective talisman. I also gave a few more talismans, solemnly instructing them, "Wait until my investigation is complete before you stick these up." Only after receiving their repeated assurances did I feel at ease enough to leave. At the school gate, I immediately spotted Baekhyun. He was driving a white supercar, his charming face drawing frequent stares from passers-by. "Why are you wearing a mask? It's not sunny anymore," Baekhyun asked, puzzled. I replied lightly, "Not afraid of the sun, afraid of losing face." Along the way, the supercar roared, shaking the ground. If not for the speed limit in the city, Baekhyun definitely would have made it fly. The Villa District was halfway up a mountain on the outskirts of West City. As soon as I opened the door, a wave of air hit my nose. My older brother, Ethan, saw me and his eyes lit up, but when he glanced at Baekhyun beside me, his face darkened. "Why are you here, bringing in Sully home and conveniently freeloading a meal?" Baekhyun smiled, looking utterly harmless. My brother forced a fake smile. How could that be? The atmosphere remained incredibly awkward. It wasn't until after dinner, when I sent Baekhyun away, that my brother's tense face finally relaxed. My master's family had always revered and feared Baekhyun. He was a nine-tailed fox spirit who had cultivated for 1,000 years. 500 years ago, after receiving a small favor from our ancestral master, he made a pact with our family. Baekhyun would ensure the safety of our master's lineage, but the heir of each generation had to offer him a part of their body. My brother, as this generation's heir, had to sacrifice one eye. My brother's left eye looked no different from a normal person's, but in reality, it was blind. "And Sully, never trust that fox," my brother earnestly warned me. I agreed. I had always taken advantage of Baekhyun. The next day, I took the talisman water and some tools my brother gave me and returned to school. Yura drank the talisman water, and the ghostly handprints on her neck quickly faded. It went smoothly until the weekend, when I asked Baekhyun to pick up Yura and me. Today, Yura was dressed very simply, even removing her fake nails. Catching my curious gaze, she said it was because her family didn't like her dressing like that. I didn't ask much. On the way to Bailing Village, only Baekhyun was chattering away. When Baekhyun's supercar drove into the village entrance, it attracted the attention of a group of gossiping aunts and uncles. He sped past, leaving them all covered in dust. Following Yura's directions, the car stopped in front of a small farm. As we got out of the car, the large iron gate opened from the inside, and a young man poked his head out, looking inquiringly. A flicker of surprise crossed Ethan's face when he saw Yura. Then he glanced at Yura's wrist and calmed down. "This is my brother Ethan," Yura said softly, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Ethan's gaze shifted between Baekhyun and me, his expression changing to a genuine smile. "Are you two Yura's friends?" Before I could speak, Baekhyun quickly answered, "That's right, hello, little brother." "Hello, big brother," Ethan replied with a bright smile, his eyes subtly sizing up Baekhyun's supercar. "Big brother, how much did your car cost?" "Not much, just over 6 million. About 19.5 billion VND. "Holy cow," Ethan's eyes lit up, and his attitude became even more eager. "Welcome, please come in, we're sorry for the mess." "No problem, we'll improvise later," I whispered back. "Okay," Yura nodded, a hint of tears in her eyes. "Ethan, who's there?" A middle-aged woman emerged from the inner room. Yura quietly introduced her as her mother, Mrs. Lim. "Her father, Mr. CO, must not be home." I nodded slightly, catching a fleeting look of unease on Mrs. Lim's face. "Why are you back? Didn't I tell you not to come back if you had nothing to do?" Mrs. Lim's tone was reproachful, yet her eyes avoided Yura's gaze. "Mom, we have guests." Ethan stepped forward, pulling Mrs. Lim's sleeve, then whispered something in her ear. "He said we're very rich," Baekhyun whispered to me. My eyes flicked to Yura standing nearby, her face reddening further. "Are you two Yura's friends? Please come in." Mrs. Lim's face changed, suddenly becoming much more enthusiastic. Inside the room, Mrs. Lim eagerly started to make tea. Yura couldn't hold back anymore and spoke bluntly. "Mom, do you know Wang Yang just died?" Mrs. Lim froze in her tracks. Ethan also looked startled at Yura. Baekhyun and I remained silent, quietly observing the drama. "How would I know about this?" Mrs. Lim blurted out, denying it. Ethan still looked visibly surprised. "How can this be? Do you really not know anything?" Yura asked, her eyes red. "Is that how you talk to your mother?" Ethan angrily moved to raise his hand to hit her, but Baekhyun blocked him. Baekhyun's face was stern. "Little brother, please refrain from laying a hand on my girlfriend." "Huh?" Ethan's mouth gaped open. He quickly retracted his hand and looked at Yura. "Your boyfriend." Yura didn't react immediately. I poked her in the waist. Only then did Yura regain her senses and hurriedly nodded. "Is this real or fake?" Mrs. Lim's eyes widened, and her mouth almost stretched to the back of her head. "You damned girl, why didn't you say so sooner? And this one?" Ethan hesitantly eyed me. I smiled sweetly and looked at Baekhyun. "I'm his cousin and Sully." "You damned girl, you have such a good boyfriend and didn't say a word," Mrs. Lim complained, her eyes glued to Baekhyun. Ethan, however, kept staring at me, but I pretended not to notice. After a long while, he couldn't help but speak. "Sister Sully, do you have a boyfriend?" To why sister now? I suppressed the feeling of revulsion and put on a friendly smile. "Not yet. I'm still studying, no rush." "Daughters should get married a bit sooner." Mrs. Lim slapped her thigh, her face anxious. "Look, isn't Yura dating your cousin? But your family said you still have to inherit the family later, so you can take your time." Mrs. Lim and Ethan's eyes seemed to be practically smoking. I added fuel to the fire. "My future husband also has to help me manage the family assets, so I definitely need to choose carefully." Ethan was so agitated he stood up straight, directly proposing himself. "Sister, what do you think of me? I've always been pure, never dated anyone. I only belong to you." I suppressed the urge to laugh, pretending to be very awkward. "I've always believed it's better to find a partner, you know." Mrs. Lim grabbed my hand, her eyes burning as they fixed on me. "You and Yura are friends. Yura is dating your cousin. If you date her brother, wouldn't you two be both friends and sisters-in-law? Even closer." They were really trying to play matchmaker. The fish had taken the bait, it was time to reel them in. "Let me go back and ask my parents first." I grimaced and lowered my head. Mrs. Lim's voice brightened significantly. "Good child, remember to discuss it with your parents then." "Sister, I'll definitely treat you well." Ethan's tone was as if I had already agreed, even though he hadn't even seen my birth date. "Huh?" I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. I looked up at Yura. Her face was incredibly awkward, her eyes not knowing where to look. Actually, I'd still prefer to be friends with Yura. I intended to subtly warn the mother and son. Sure enough, Mrs. Lim was startled, her bright smile becoming a little unnatural. Well, that's fine too, she said, glancing at Yura. She then gently poked Ethan with her elbow and gave him a look. Let's go talk to your father about your sister. Oh, right, we still need to tell Dad. Ethan hurriedly nodded, then told Yura, Little sister, entertain our guests well. Mom and I are going out for a bit. Okay, Yura nodded, and the mother and son quickly left. Tusk, Baekhyun watched them leave, his face etched with disgust. This family is truly repulsive. I'm sorry, you all must be laughing at me. Yura's face was so red it looked like it might bleed. I waved my hand, indicating it was fine. It's nothing, he didn't say anything. Where can I wash my hands? Yura led me to the sink in the kitchen. I scrubbed my hands repeatedly, but couldn't wash away the feeling of revulsion. I'm sorry, Yura started to apologize again. When I turned, I saw tears welling up in her eyes, so I deliberately teased her. You used to be so arrogant in front of me. Why are you so weak now? You're already about to cry after 2 sentences. I'm sorry. At this point, she wasn't just apologizing, but almost bowing to me. I really couldn't stand it. I grabbed her hand and pulled her up. Stand up straight. Don't do such meaningless things. Yura sobbed, continuing to recount her tragic story from years ago. In the past, Wang Yang led a group of people who bullied Yura. Relying on his family's wealth, he did whatever he wanted. On the night of graduation, they all ganged up to humiliate Yura. She even tried to commit suicide but was discovered by her brother. Her family even beat her for it. Yura's family favored sons over daughters, sending her to university only so they could demand a higher bride price later. Her tuition fees were paid with loans from friends. Her living expenses came from Yura working while studying. Her parents had never given her a single penny. Why did you inexplicably hate me before? Yura's previous baffling actions towards me were finally explained. My doubts were resolved. Yura's face was embarrassed as she continued. Besides all that, it might also be because I admired and envied you. My inner inferiority complex made everything you did a thorn in my side, which ultimately made me pick fights with you. I'm truly sorry. Don't say those words anymore. My head hurts. I didn't want to hear those apologies anymore, so I spoke plainly to her. I didn't care much anyway. Your strangeness towards me was nothing. Really? Yura's expression improved slightly. Judging by your brother's reaction, it seems highly likely they sold you. What are you going to do? Even though she had mentally prepared for it, this was still a significant blow to Yura. Her face was ashen. She frowned for a long time before saying, I want to escape this family. Sully, please help me. Yura's determined gaze pleased me. At this moment, Baekhyun suddenly popped out, saying playfully, Then I guess it's okay if I kill them all, right? Yura was startled, stammering, No, that's illegal, how could you? But they deserve to die. Baekhyun came closer to Yura, bowing his head to look at her. Want to make a deal with me? A deal for what? Get the hell out of here. I kicked Baekhyun in the hip, sending him stumbling a few steps. He turned back with a resentful look. And Sully, you're bullying me again? Wah. I couldn't be bothered to look at him, simply opening my mouth coldly. Don't try to deceive anyone here. If you're bored, why don't you go watch some entertainment for me? Just then, Baekhyun smirked. I was also hoping to see some dog-eat-dog action. Baekhyun walked out the door with great interest. Yura watched his retreating figure, mumbling, Sully, I feel like he's very good to you. Yura, not everything you see with your eyes is real. Hearing me, Yura looked puzzled. I didn't explain, only asking her, Didn't you say you wanted to escape this family? Go pack your things now. Hearing this, Yura's eyes brightened and she straightened. Okay. 15 minutes later, Yura walked out of the room empty-handed. I stood at the door, looking at the clutter inside, and asked, Don't you have anything here? Yes, Yura awkwardly nodded, explaining, All my things are in the dorm. About an hour later, Baekhyun returned. A delighted smile was plastered on his face as he eagerly approached us to share the good show he had witnessed. Number 31, Bailing Village, was Wang Yang's old home. His body was also kept there. Mrs. Lim and Ethan had found Mr. Seo at work. After the three of them discussed, they went to Wang Yang's house. They had a huge argument with Wang Yang's parents, neither side giving in. Currently, Wang Yang's parents were leading people to the Seo family's house. As soon as she heard they were coming, Yura nervously grabbed my hand, urging, Let's go quickly, we might cause trouble for you too. I gently patted Yura's hand to reassure her. Don't panic, the real show is just beginning. Soon after, a commotion erupted outside the gate. Several people rushed in. Ethan's family followed close behind. Then, a well-dressed woman immediately straightened up upon seeing Yura and pointed at her. There she is! Grab her! Two young men accompanying her stepped forward to seize Yura, but Baekhyun kicked them away with one swift movement. A white-bearded old man looked at Baekhyun, his tones slightly threatening. Young man, don't meddle in other people's affairs. This girl, you won't be able to protect her. Baekhyun didn't even bother to glance at him, too lazy to speak. Tusk, I looked at the gray Taoist robe the old man was wearing, my brows furrowing. Old man, you should know that forcing a living person into a ghost marriage will harm your yin virtue, right? Ha, what would a mere child like you know? He sneered, utterly contemptuous of me. Oh, I significantly injured Wang Yang's soul earlier. You must have spent a lot of effort treating him, didn't you? You, the old man stared at me in disbelief, as if trying to see through me. Taoist master, no need for more words with them. A fat uncle's eyes locked onto Yura, looking as if he wished he could devour her alive. Yura, your parents took 500,000 yuan from us. They sold you to us for 500,000. Now you belong to the Wang family and must come with us. His attitude was firm, and he spoke loudly. Yura's hand, clutching my clothes, trembled incessantly. It's hilarious. Don't you people know that human trafficking is illegal, and you're still talking so loudly? I stared unflinchingly into the fat uncle's eyes. He averted his gaze to the old Taoist priest beside him. At this moment, the woman who had shouted earlier cursed, "What's wrong? Stop trying to scare us. Even if it's illegal, the Seo family did it willingly. Even if you call the police, their family won't escape. I don't care. At worst, they'll all be arrested. It has nothing to do with me anyway. I wish I could send all these crazy outsiders to jail." Mrs. Lim was the first to rush forward, standing in front of us. Her voice was meek as she negotiated with the woman and the middle-aged man. Wang Yang's parents, please don't be angry. We'll return the 500,000 to you. Then produce 500,000 right now. Wait a minute. Mrs. Lim finished speaking and then looked at Baekhyun, smiling obsequiously. Young man, please help Yura. She's your girlfriend after all. 500,000 is a small matter. Baekhyun changed the subject. But what? Is this selling your daughter? A daughter marrying is like spilled water, isn't it? Didn't you have a daughter just to provide for her brother later? Mrs. Lim's attitude when saying these words was so blatant, as if Yura wasn't her daughter, but an item she could trade at any time. At this moment, Mr. Seo, who had been silent, also stepped forward to chime in. Daughters are all expensive. We've raised her for so many years, she should repay us a little. I looked at Yura and saw a mixture of confusion, disappointment, and rage on her face. Her eyes were red, but no tears fell. I'll offer 1.5 million. 1.5 million to buy your daughter. I spoke calmly. In an instant, all eyes focused on me. Everyone was caught off guard, falling silent in contemplation. Wang Yang's mother was the first to object. No, even if you return the money, we won't accept it. Yura must come with us. The white-bearded old man stroked his goatee with a knowing smile, looking at me meaningfully. Little girl, the bond of fate has already been formed. You cannot break it. Ha ha. I glanced at him disdainfully, scoffing. Then I can only say your cultivation is too shallow. Young people are too arrogant. Do you want to taste suffering? The old man said grandly, then winked at Wang Yang's parents. Let's go back first. It's not too late to come pick her up tomorrow. Wang Yang's father wanted to say something, but the old man stopped him. He whispered something into Wang Yang's father's ear. Wang Yang's father then glanced at us and led his people away. As soon as they left, Ethan approached me. Sister Sully, did you mean it when you said you'd buy my sister for 1 million? Of course I meant it. Then our family will sell. Mrs. Lim was as excited as if she'd won the lottery. Mr. Seo's lips twitched upward maniacally. All right, but I have a condition. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan eagerly pressed, what condition? I want her to sever all family ties with you all. All three looked awkward. Mrs. Lim gave an embarrassed smile, playing the emotional card with me. How can that be? How can you say that? Yura is also a piece of flesh from my body. Even if family bones break, the tendons are still connected. At this moment, before I could speak, Baekhyun opened his mouth. Didn't you already take 500,000 to sell her as a ghost wife? Now you're playing the emotional card. Don't tell me you want to keep sucking Yura's blood later on. I was too lazy to prolong it, directly stating, if you don't agree, then forget it. Agree, we'll sell her right away. This family only feared their daughter wouldn't be sold. They immediately grabbed paper and pen to sign the agreement. Yura pressed her fingerprint without hesitation, her expression quite resolute. I took the severance letter, confirmed there were no problems, and put it away. I then casually tossed a bank card to Mr. CEO. This card has over 1.5 million. The extra change is for you too. The password is 8,356. The entire family was overjoyed. They took the bank card to a nearby branch to check the balance. Yura's face was downcast as she asked me, Sully, aren't you afraid of being exploited? You don't know me yet? I shook my head and smiled mysteriously at Yura. I've never made a losing deal. Can I sleep at your house tonight? Of course you can, Yura nodded, glancing at her room. As long as you two don't find it too cramped. After Ethan's family returned, they were happy to agree to us staying overnight. Since returning from the bank, they had been grinning from ear to ear, laughing no matter what they did. That evening, we all squeezed into Yura's room, quietly waiting for night to fall. At midnight, dog barks echoed outside. The small lamp in the room was on. The three of us sat on the bed, playing a card game on our phones. Bang, bang, the room door was rattled loudly. Yura was so scared she trembled, almost dropping her phone. I patted her shoulder, then pointed at her phone, reminding her it was time to play her card. Yura took a deep breath and continued to focus on the game. I had set up a protective array in the room. Nothing unclean from outside could enter. Bang, 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 the door was pounded again, but we remained indifferent. The thing outside grew impatient and spoke directly. Yura, I'm Wang Yang. I order you to open the door immediately. The voice was slow, hoarse, and utterly demonic. Yura's hand holding the phone trembled and she played her card slowly. Yura, you'd better open the door or you won't get any fruit to eat. Wang Yang continued to threat, pushing against the door with force. The door creaked under his assault but remained unmoved. Seeing that force wasn't working, Wang Yang switched to a softer approach. Please open the door. I'm all alone and so lonely. Come with me, I'll treat you well, and I'll never bully you again. Damn it, that's disgusting, Yura cursed softly, making a retching motion towards the door. We continued playing cards while Wang Yang knocked, alternating between threats and pleas, talking nonsense. After we finished a few rounds of cards, he finally fell silent. Approximately 15 minutes later, screams mixed with chaotic curses came from outside. It was Mrs. Lim and Mr. CEO's voices. I put down my phone and walked to the door, turning to Yura. You and Baekhyun stay in here. I'll go out and clean up a bit. With that, I slipped out, closing the door behind me, just in time to see Mrs. Lim and Mr. CEO being chased into the yard by Wang Yang. They were stumbling, tears streaming down their faces, screaming at Wang Yang. Don't come here. Ethan rushed forward with a shovel, striking Wang Yang directly on the back of his head. Wang Yang's head was already tilted, and after taking such a blow, it flopped completely to the side, dangling precariously on his neck as if about to fall off. Ah! Mrs. Lim's piercing scream almost burst my eardrums. I scratched my ear, changing my stance, and continued to observe the farce. At this moment, Wang Yang slowly lifted his head, turning to glide towards Ethan. You want to die? Ethan repeated his old trick. Wang Yang casually grabbed the shovel, swung it aside, and both Ethan and his shovel were flung several meters away. Ethan, Mrs. Lim and Mr. CEO ran over in distress. Mr. CEO rushed directly to Wang Yang, kneeling and kowtowing. Wang Yang, please spare us. Yura. Wang Yang slowly opened his mouth. I want Yura. Tell her to open the door. All right. Mr. CEO stood up, looking towards me. Get out of the way. Mr. CEO's face, in his panic, didn't forget to threaten me. I stepped aside, letting him pass. Bang, 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 Mr. CEO pounded on the door several times, shouting loudly. Yura, open the door quickly. If you don't open it, our whole family will be killed by you. Ha ha, I sneered at him, grumbling. He's truly worthy of being a sacrificial lamb. Not long after, Mrs. Lim and Ethan stumbled over, frantically beating on the door. Yura, think of your mother, carrying you for 9 months and 10 days. Open the door, I beg you. Yura, if you don't come out, I'll break down this door. The three of them stood at the door, simultaneously cursing and begging, but there was no movement inside. Yura, if you don't come out, I'll kill your whole family, Wang Yang said viciously. Yura still didn't speak, making the three outside so desperate they wanted to charge straight in. I'll kill you all, thick resentment erupted from Wang Yang. Dark clouds swirled around him, his pupils turned red, and dark red blood tears streamed out, leaving 2 glaring crimson streaks on his pale face. Oh dear, he's turned into a vengeful ghost. The Seo family members were so frightened they huddled together. Wang Yang raised his hands, grabbing Mr. Seo and Ethan, choking them and lifting them up. They gasped for breath, unable to even beg for mercy. Mrs. Lim knelt on the ground, kowtowing frantically. When her eyes caught sight of me, they instantly lit up. Wang Yang, that girl is Yura's good friend. If you threaten her, Yura will definitely open the door for you. Thud, Wang Yang loosened his grip. Mr. Seo and Ethan fell to the ground, gasping for air. Ugh, I gagged, waving my hand to clear the air in front of my nose, looking at Wang Yang with disgust. You've been dead for so long, just stay buried. You're rotting and stinking. Wang Yang tried to roar in anger, but could only let out a strange shriek. Seeing him glide towards me, I raised my hand, muttering a spell. Heaven and earth, profound path, myriad energies cover, vast cultivation, prove my divine power, as quick as the law commands. Golden light erupted from my body. Wang Yang hurriedly retreated. I pulled a talisman from my pocket, chanted a spell, and transformed it into a golden light that flew towards Wang Yang's chest. Wang Yang screamed in agony. The talisman, once pasted, turned into real fire, directly burning a hole through his burial shroud and charring his chest black. Great Master, save us? Mr. Seo smoothly changed his address, kneeling to beg me for his life. I glanced at him disdainfully, pulling out a handful of red silk threads. The red threads, under my urging, seemed to come alive, flying towards Wang Yang and circling him. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free. Wang Yang was bound like a glutinous rice dumpling wrapped in red threads. Because of his extreme struggles, he even fell to the ground, resembling a large loach fish flopping in a dry field. I walked over and kicked him, stomping on his chest. Do you want me to destroy you or kill those 3 fools? Wang Yang twisted his head to look at the Seo family, a grotesque smile on his lips. Don't beg her, kill that evil spirit. We know we were wrong, Mrs. Lim hurriedly pleaded. Mr. Seo and Ethan also echoed her. I can spare you all, but you have to pay the fee first. I clapped my hands, looking at them. 1.5 million to buy these 3 lives. Mr. Seo hesitated. Ethan even tried to negotiate with me. Sister Sully, for our sister's sake. I'm only saving your lives because of your sister. I looked at him coldly, a smile playing on my lips. Otherwise, I would absolutely not save you. 1 million, Mr. Seo blurted out, pushing Mrs. Lim forward. It was this old woman who incited Wang Yang to deal with you. I'll pay you 1 million for her life. Mr. Seo, Mrs. Lim shrieked, hitting and scolding him. I bore you children for the Seo family, pouring in so much effort, and in the end, you push me out to die. Mr. Seo angrily pushed her to the ground with one hand, savagely cursing. If not for your idiotic idea, would we be in this situation today? You're the one who ruined the Seo family. Mr. Seo, you're as black-hearted as a dog. You clearly took the money, and now all the blame is on me. Goo goo, Mrs. Lim's crying was truly unbearable. I couldn't stand it anymore and spoke up. No matter how many people, it's still 1.5 million. If you don't agree, I'll release the ghost to bite people. Mr. Seo was silent for a moment, then retrieved 2 bank cards. One of them was the card I had given earlier. The 2 cards totaled 1.5 million. The password was 49,903. I joyfully accepted them, and a glance at Mr. Seo's reluctant expression only made me feel more pleased. Shameless brat, daring to disrupt my Taoist magic? An old voice echoed from the courtyard gate. I looked, and sure enough, it was the white-bearded old man again. Behind him were Wang Yang's parents. Wang Yang's parents lunged onto Wang Yang's bound form. I stepped back in disgust. At this moment, Baekhyun opened the door and led Yura towards me. The white-bearded old man glared at me furiously. I contemptuously glanced at him, scoffing. You call this crooked sorcery Taoist magic? You clearly know that if you use your own blood to nourish a ghost, once the ghost's soul is scattered, you will suffer a backlash, losing 10 years of your life. Yet you still forcibly arrange this ghost marriage, harming your yin virtue. You'll surely be dragged to hell when you die. Stop spewing nonsense and misleading people here. The old man's face turned paler, but he still tried to maintain his composure. A mere child dares to meddle in my affairs. Oh, so you have to be old enough to comment on him? I winked at Baekhyun. He immediately understood and walked in front of the old man, looking directly into his eyes. Mortal, you're not qualified to mention age in front of me. Baekhyun's voice was laced with charm, easy to fall under its spell if one wasn't careful. The white-bearded old man stared blankly at Baekhyun for a few seconds, then dropped to his knees with a thud. This humble one was blind. Please spare me, Your Excellency. He then turned from Baekhyun to kowtow to me, before scurrying away from the scene in disarray. Great master! Wang Yang's father's shouts couldn't even slow the old man's hurried steps. Wang Yang's mother knelt before me, meekly pleading, Great master, please spare Wang Yang, we only have one child. You should have let him rest in peace earlier. That way, he still would have had a chance to reincarnate. Even if it was as an animal, it would be better than turning to dust. I was unmoved, even finding their foolishness amusing. My red threads were no ordinary objects. A normal person couldn't possibly untie them. Just wait until dawn, and Wang Yang would return to dust, to earth. After leaving Bailing Village, Baekhyun drove Yura and me back near the school. It was still before dawn, so we booked a hotel room to stay overnight for convenience. Not sleeping all night had made me a bit tired. And Sully, just as I closed my eyes, preparing to sleep, Yura suddenly spoke. Be careful of Baekhyun. I turned over, ready to listen, but Yura's face was clouded with worry, her eyebrows furrowed like a twisted pretzel. Baekhyun tried to seduce me into making a deal with him. He said if he could take my hearing from one ear, he would help me kill my parents. I think he's a little scary. It's okay, just don't agree to his terms. I feigned an understanding expression and then conveniently offered an explanation, as if suggesting that we all had our own quirks. Yura looked like she wanted to say more but held back. I suddenly remembered something, stood up, and took a bank card from my pocket, handing it to her. This has 500,000. The password is 499. Isn't this for me? This is what you're owed. The Wang family owes you. I pressed the bank card into her hand. Yura bowed her head, clutching the bank card tightly. Large teardrops fell onto the card. I heard her softly whisper, Thank you, Sully. Go to sleep. I turned over and closed my eyes, truly exhausted. I had a dream. I dreamt that when I was 5, I met Baekhyun in an antique shop and was immediately captivated. From then on, I frequently visited that antique shop. When I was 6, Baekhyun asked if I wanted to make a deal with him. He would grant me 500 years of cultivation, but when I got old, I would have to give him 1 ear's hearing. Baekhyun's cultivation wasn't yet perfected. Every 100 years, a part of his body would lose sensation, and he would compensate for this deficit through contracts with my master's family. But as time went on, the interval between losing sensation became shorter and shorter, so he needed to find replacements. At that young age, I didn't understand the significance of this transaction. It wasn't until my brother's eye went blind that I realized its importance. From then on, I distanced myself from Baekhyun. No matter how close or intimate he tried to be with me, I maintained a gentle yet reserved attitude. Perhaps because I had once felt betrayed and resented him, everything that came later felt more distant to me. Even when he spoke of wanting to marry me, my heart only fluttered a little before returning to calm. When you know someone is approaching you with a purpose, everything they do in your eyes becomes purposeful. That's how I felt about Baekhyun, but why did he need to find replacements? I still didn't fully understand. The next morning, when I woke up, a number of WeChat messages appeared on my phone screen. When I clicked on them, they were all silly messages sent by Baekhyun. Skipping past a string of nonsense, I went straight to the last sentence. And Sully, I miss you a little. Can I pick you up for tea this weekend? I stared at the message and thought for a long time, then typed a reply. Thanks, I don't like tea. Bubble tea is fine. I turned off my phone and looked down at Yura, who was still asleep beside me. The red thread on her wrist had vanished.